Welcome to Serenity Education channel. Please don't forget to subscribe or join the channel if you have not done so. Right, today we are going to look at grade 10 topic outline for the final examination. And then grade 12, paper 2, the total mark will be 120 marks. Then we have divided them into these categories. We have the system technologies, we have the internet and network technologies, we have the social implication, information management, and then solution development, and then finally integrated scenario. Now, when it comes to the system technologies, the total mark will be between 25 to 50 marks or maybe 40 marks. Right. Now, what constitute the system technologies? You will find system technologies questions in question 4. You'll also find them in question 9 and then maybe question 10. First of all, we have to know what a hardware is, and then also the definition of a computer. Now, first term you talk about computers. You said the definition is an electronic device that processes data to produce information. And we have different categories of computing devices. We have desktop computers, which is stationary, like in most cases you'll find them in their labs. And then it has good performance, so you can find it in the labs or offices or in our homes. Then we also have laptop computers, which is more portable, battery powered, meaning that they use batteries, suitable for mobile use. And then we have tablet or iPad. They are also mobile devices. And then they have touch screen, portable, mostly for browsing and then multimedia. Then we have the smartphones, which is handheld devices, which most of us use daily for communication and then also for internet and then using apps. Then we have server. Servers are more powerful computers which provide resources to other network devices. Then the mainframe, which is high capacity, high powered, large scale computers for critical enterprise applications. Mostly for big companies, they use mainframe for their servers and other analysis. And then we have supercomputers, which is bigger than mainframe computers, and it is extremely fast computer for scientific calculations, and then also used by AI. Then embedded or dedicated devices. These are a type of specialized devices that perform a single task or purpose. Example is ATM machine. They are only performing that task to withdraw money and do those transactions. Smart fridges and others. They are called dedicated or embedded systems or devices. Then we have wearable devices. These are computers that we wear or devices that we wear on our body, like smartwatches, fitness trackers, and others. They are used to track data, health, and then notifications. And then we have a thin client computers, which is very small devices that rely on a network server for resource sharing. So in most schools, they also have a thin client computer, very small one, tiny computers um, that are connected to network. So basically, these are examples of computing devices. Now, let's also look at the differences between hardware and then software. Now, when you talk about hardware, it is the physical part. The first keyword is physical part of the computer. The physical part of the computer that you can touch, we call it hardware. And then examples are keyboard, monitor, CPU, hard drive, mouse. Those are the physical part of the computer that you can touch. Now, let's take a look at the components of the computer system that form part of the hardware. We have what we call the input devices. These devices allow us to capture data into the computer. Example is mouse, keyboard, which is the most common input device, scanners, and others. We also have output devices like monitor, printer, speakers, and then we have processing devices like the CPU, and then we have the RAM, and then also motherboard. So here's processing devices. Right, so the main brain of the computer, it is called CPU. Then the software, if we talk about software is a set of instructions controlling the hardware. So the hardware is the physical part, whilst the software is the set of instructions. So we will talk about softwares later. Again, we will be looking at the ports and connectors. Now, if we talk about the ports and connectors, we have the USB port and then we have the USB connectors also. So the USB port is where you slot in um, the USB connector, which is the USB flash drive or cable. So the USB connect storage devices, printers, and others. And HDMI port, they transmit audio and video at the same time. Then we have the network port for internet, whereby you connect the network cable so that your computer will be connected to a network. Right. Then we also have converters and adapters. Sometimes, let's say you have VGA port, but then you will not be able to use the VGA because your projector is using HDMI. Such situation, you have to have a converter or adapter. So the converters, they change signal type. That is maybe changing from HDMI to VGA or VGA to HDMI, or from digital to analog also. So those are called converters. And then the adapter, they allow one plug type to fit into another without changing the signal, like USB type C adapter to USB type A. Right. So that's the difference between the adapters and then converters. Now, we will also look at the basic or the essential hardware component of a computer. What are the computer components that are more important? We call them the basic or hardware components of the computer. The first one will be the CPU, because they process data. They are very important because they will process data, and then it needs to be faster also. RAM, which is random access memory, which hold data temporary, and then storage, which could be HDD or SSD, they store data permanently. And then the GPU, which stands for graphic processing unit. These are the most important or essential component of the computer system. Now, we already discussed the categories of the hardware. We said it has input processing, output storage, and then communication. Now, information processing cycle. This is a series of stages or steps that the computer uses to convert data into information. Let's say you got data and you want to change it to information. The series of the steps are called information processing cycle. The first stage is input, whereby we capture data into the computer. The second stage is processing, whereby you do the analysis or calculations. And then the third stage is the storage, whereby data is kept for future use. And then the fourth stage is the output, whereby we display the processed data, which is the information, which could be on the screen or it could be on a paper. And the last stage is the communication, which is sharing the information through various medium. Like you can share through network, you can share through WhatsApp, You can share through website, or you can share through PowerPoint presentation. So that is it. Now let's go through input devices into details. We already gave common input devices. Pointing devices. These are also categories of input devices. Examples are touchpad, that's the laptop cursor control, which is always embedded part of the laptop. We have the trackball, which is ball controlled pointer, useful for limited spaces. The trackball is mostly on the laptop also, that you can use as a mouse. Touch screen, it can be a single or multi-touch screen, which interact with the screen, like on the tablets and then smartphones. Then we also have stylus, which is like pen input for drawing and writing. The one that we use like a pen to write on the screen. And then joysticks for gaming, or we call them controllers. So these are all pointing devices. Then we also have another category of input device called scanning and reading devices. They convert physical data to digital one. And a typical example is the scanners that we have, the document scanners. We have handheld scanner, flatbed scanner, and sheet fed. The flatbed, you have to open it and then you put the papers one by one and then you scan them one after the other. But in the sheet fed, like the way we do the photocopies, we put all of them together so that all of them can be scanned at the same time. And then we also have multifunction scanner that can scan, print, copy, and do other functions also. Then we have RFID, which stands for radio frequency identification. Radio frequency identification. They are text that reads or they read wireless electronic text. We can find this one in so many places. Example, you can find the RFID for a number plate. You see RFID, the text, so that they will scan it. You can find RFID tag also on animals, to monitor animals also if you are doing farming. And even athletes, the runners, they place RFID tag to determine the position, who crossed the first line, and then they'll be able to determine the various positions. That is the radio frequency identification. Then we have the magnetic stripe readers that reads like the bank card stripes. If you have the bank card and then the checks, they read them also. Then we have the barcode scanner. These barcode scanners, they read product barcodes. Like if you go to ShopRite point of sales, you will see a barcode scanner that reads these codes. And then the QR code scanner, they scan a quick response for a link or a web page. So the QR code, when you scan it, it takes you to a website or an email, or for payment purposes also. And then we have the OCR, optical character recognition. This is a type of software that scan the document to editable text. Let's say you have a document, your notes, which is hard copy. When you scan it and you want to make changes to it, you need to have that special software called OCR. Right. So these are the different types of scanners and readers. Then we go to processing devices. We have motherboard, which is the main circuit board holding all the components. We have the CPU, which is the main brain of the computers, the main brain of the computer that does all the processing. We also have RAM, which is random access memory, and then RAM, the whole data temporary. We have the ROM, which is the non-volatile type also, which is random read-only memory. We call it ROM, read-only memory. So like we said, motherboard is the main circuit board that you can see here. It's part of the processing devices. Right, now let's move straight to the output devices. The output is the process information produced by a computer. So the devices that assist us to display them on the screen, we call them output devices. There are different types of output, like the text, like your pet report or other documents that's displayed on the screen. We have the graphics output, like images and charts. We have the audio output, like the music and voice. And we have also the video, like the clips and animations. These are types of output. But then we can also categorize them either hard copy or soft copy. Now, the hard copy is the physical output on a paper. Like if you print out something, that's the hard copy. And then the soft copy is the digital output on the screen. Like what is displayed on the screen right now. It could be PDF display or it could be Microsoft Word document. Now, the output devices are monitors, printers, speakers, projectors, and many more. Advantages and disadvantages of these output devices. The advantages are one, their easy sharing of information, and then visual clarity, physical records. You can also have them as a printout. But then disadvantages are that it costs, like for instance, if you print out, maintenance cost, and then also portability. Some of the output devices you cannot always move with it. Right. And then there are other output like multifunction devices which can print, scan, and then copy. We have others like the digital projector, which displays large images on the screen. And then we have the visualizer, which projects physical document on the screen also. So these are examples of other output devices. Then when it comes to storage, we have two categories of storage. We have one, the primary storage, which store data temporary, like the RAM, and it's volatile and expensive per gigabyte. Then it has faster access of the file. Then we have the secondary devices like the storage, like the HDD and SSD. They are called non-volatile, it's cheaper per gigabyte, and has a slow access. So we have examples like hard drive, which is magnetic. We have SSD, which is electronic, flash drive. It's also electronic storage. CD, DVD, and Blu-ray, we categorize them as optical devices. And then we have the memory card, which is also electronic storage devices. Then you need to know also um, the SSD as compared to the HDD. They are internal storage devices. SSD is faster read and write than HDD. And then SSD, which is solid state drive, are more durable than HDD. You will always find SSD in the modern laptops. Then it's also energy efficient compared to HDD. But we always say that the SSD is more expensive as compared to HDD. And then also SSD, they have a smaller capacity. You can find HDD like 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, but in SSD, you normally find them 512 gigabytes. And then even if you can get the 1 terabyte. So normally the HDD hard drive has bigger sizes than SSD. And then the cloud storage, that is saving data online, that you can have access to your files anywhere with any device. So if you save your work online, like OneDrive, Google Drive, and others. So if I go to my Google Drive, all the work is saved online that I can share with other people. Right. So these are the saving files online. We call them cloud storage or online storage. Right. And then We also have the memory card and then the card readers. So the memory card is small portable storage for phones and cameras, and they vary in size and then also speed. Then the card reader, it is part of the computer that reads this memory card. So if you want to see whatever that you have in the memory card, you must slot it inside the card reader before you can see them on the computer. And then finally, communication devices, which are the devices that allow us to share information, like the modem, router, switch, NIC, and then different cables. Now, also dedicated devices, like we said, they do one task. And then we have the general purpose computer that can do so many tasks. So the general purpose computers are the ones that we find them, like the mobile devices, the laptops, and then the touch screen, the one with the touch screen, the desktop. They are all part of the general purpose computers. So we have already discussed these ones, the servers, and then also the mobile devices. Now we move straight to convergence. This is a terminology whereby we have so many functions combined in one device. Example is your smartphone. If you take your smartphone, you will see camera there, you will see GPS, you will be able to use it for emails and others. So we have so many functions or technologies that are combined in one device. And then the term used for such is called convergence. Another example is laptop. Laptop is also convergent because it has keyboard. It also has screen. Then it has speakers and so many functions that are there. So the microphone and others are there in the laptop. So that makes it as a convergent devices. Now, the advantages of convergent devices are is convenient. That is, you might have so many functions in just one device. And then cost saving, you don't need to buy separate devices for each function. And it is also portable. You can move it around, most of them. Right. Then the concept of data and information. When it comes to data, you should be able to differentiate between data and then information, and then also examples of data and then examples of information. Data is defined as raw and processed facts and figures with no context or with no meaning. So here I can just make it as with no meaning. Right. Example, a typical example of data is when you have cat learners math, maybe paper 2 math, 45, 60, 78. They are just raw facts and figures. But the moment you process this number by doing calculation, then they become what you call the information. So the data provides foundation for creating information and also support record keeping. Example of data in our school, like I said, the cat mark for paper 1 or your pet mark, learners' names, and attendance register or record. These are examples of data that we can find at our schools. Now, the information is the processed data that are meaningful. Example is the average mark for cat for maybe a certain school is 61%. So this is meaningful because you know that all the learners averagely they are getting 61%. It is meaningful. Now, example of them is the average mark attendance report and then top achievers. Let's say the top achievers in CAT or top achievers at the school. That one becomes the information example. Right. Remember, data becomes information after it has been analyzed, summarized, or organized. So that is how we get information. So information can be derived from data after it has been analyzed or summarized. Right. Now let's move straight to the next topic under the system technologies, biometric input. Now, biometric input, that is measuring unique physical characteristics of a person for security or identification. Like, for instance, the unique physical features are um, features. So the unique physical features are fingerprints, and then others. So these are unique features. But the examples of biometric devices are fingerprint scanners, facial recognition device. So here we are talking about the devices. You must be specific, and then iris scanners. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of these biometrics? One, they increase security and then they prevent unauthorized access. They are tied to one person. That means that only one person will be able to beat that security, which makes it difficult to bypass. But then the disadvantages are that they're expensive and then they may also raise security concerns. Then there are other limitations like, let's say you use your voice as biometric and then you had flu. It might not be able to detect it. So that could be a disadvantage. And then multi-touch screen, that's detecting multiple points of contact at the same time for zooming and then swiping and rotating an object. That is called multi-touch screen. Then the wireless technology. Those are technologies that connect wirelessly using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or infrared. The advantages are that they increase mobility and then it is convenient. What do you mean by increasing mobility? You'll be able to move around, that is portable, and then you can also work from anywhere. But then disadvantage is that they require power, which is battery, and then they may have um, connection interferences. There might be some connection interferences. So these are the disadvantages and advantages of wireless devices. Now, what are the reasons, economic reasons for using computers? That's our next topic. The economic reason for using computers: one, communication, to make decision, time saving, and then also global connectivity in most of our devices. These and many more are the reasons why we use computers. You must also know the specifications when making buying decisions. For example, you need to know the unit of measurement for any of these essential components. CPU is measured in gigahertz. Example, let's say 2.5 gigahertz. RAM is measured in gigabytes. Like, it's volatile, they lose the content when the power goes off. Graphic card is measured in gigabyte also for image processing. Like, for instance, the gamers, if they need to play game and then edit certain videos and others, you need a graphic card. Optical drive for storage, like the CD, DVD, and Blu-ray, they are measured in gigabyte or megabyte. And then USB port 2.0 and others. Then peripheral, you must know the peripherals also. When we talk about peripheral, they are the external devices connected to the computer. So external devices that are connected to the computer, like the mouse, keyboard, monitors, webcam, and others, they are all external devices. We call them peripherals. And these peripherals can be connected either through cable or wirelessly. Then we talk about HDD and then solid state. I gave you earlier the differences also. So you have to know. And then in terms of storage, the capacities, it starts from bits. So 8 bits equals 1 byte. Then it goes to byte, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, and then terabyte. So terabyte becoming the biggest storage size, and then also gigabyte is bigger than megabyte. So you need to know the arrangement also. So 1000 gigabytes is equal to 1 terabyte. Right, backup. When we talk about backup, backup meaning or simply means making copies of your data in case you accidentally delete them or in case of virus infection. And you know, backup can be done on maybe external hard drive. It can also be done on flash drive, CD. You can also do backup online storage. So these are ways of making backup. Right. Then you must also know the difference between memory and storage, RAM and storage. We said RAM is temporary, storage is permanent, meaning that the RAM holds data when it is being used or processed. Storage holds data permanently. And then RAM is volatile, storage is non-volatile. And then the speed, in terms of speed, RAM is faster than the storage. And then in terms of the capacity or the sizes, RAM is smaller size as compared to storage. So you need to know these differences also. Then we move straight to output devices like monitors and screens. Now we have different types of monitors like the touch screen, LED or LCD monitor. Now, whenever you are buying a monitor, you need to consider certain factors. One, you must consider the size of the monitor. And then the size of a monitor is measured diagonally in inches. You must also consider the contrast ratio. You need to consider the resolution, which is measured in pixels or megapixels. You need to consider the aspect ratio, which is the relationship between the width and then the height of the monitor, and then the refresh rate. Again, you must also consider the connectivity, whether is it HDMI or wireless or VGA. So these are the factors one needs to consider when purchasing a monitor. Then printers, when purchasing a printer, you need to consider various types like inkjet, which use ink, laser jet, which use toner, which is powdered, 3D printer, which is for creating a three-dimensional physical object. So these are the things that you must know, the different types. And then also the connectivity of the printer can be either through cable or through wireless. So you need to know that. But then when you need colors, you must always consider inkjet. It's better for color and photo printing. Laser, in terms of speed, you need a laser printer. Now, if you want to create physical objects, you need a 3D printer. Then we move on to the factors to consider when buying printers. Resolution of a printer is measured in DPI, which is dots per inch. And then the speed of the printer is measured in ppm, which is pages per minute. How many pages will be printed within 1 minute? And then also color depth. You need to consider color depth. And then different paper sizes, like if you can print A4 and A3 or A5. And then even the type of the paper, whether the normal type or the one like for the cards. Then you must also consider the connectivity. So these are the things that you need to consider when buying printers. And then multifunction printer, like we said earlier, they can scan, fax, copy, and then also print. Then we move on to the ergonomic or no, the green computing, using a printer to ensure that you don't cause harm to the environment. You need to refill cartridges, print double-sided, use draft mode, or you can say maybe 2 pages per sheet to reduce the paper usage also. And then also somebody can say printing, having it in smaller font, and avoid bolding text because when you bold, it takes a lot of ink also. Then we move on to another printing technique, which is the default printer and then printer queue. So the default printer is the main printer that you choose when you want to print. Let's say I go to Control P and I want to print. My default printer is the one that is having a tick selected. So here my default printer will be Microsoft Print to PDF. Even though I have a lot of printers, that will be here. You might have more printers. So the default one is the one that is tick. You need to take note of that. And then the print queue, when you click on the print command, the list of print jobs, they are called print queue. And that those print jobs you can pause, cancel, or also prioritize. But then the place where these print jobs are stored, you call it spooler. A storage location, and it's a temporary storage. Location, storage location where print jobs are stored. So they are kept there. That allows you to pause, cancel, or delete or prioritize any job there. We call it spooler or spooling. Right. Digital camera. You need to know the factors. For images, resolution, which is in megapixels, ISO rating, sensitivity to light, sensor size, and other factors that you might need when you want to buy the digital camera or webcam. Right, then we already talked about this. I don't need to repeat this. NFC, near field communication, which is a wireless medium for transferring data in close proximity or by tapping devices. Normally, when you go to point of sales, most of the shops, you use your bank card and then you tap to pay. They use the NFC technology. So it should be close to each other. And then we also have radio frequency identification, like we said, to track objects. And examples are for the ID card, inventory tracking, runners, and others. Bluetooth is the short range technology for exchanging data files also, mostly for wireless headphones, keyboard, wireless speakers, and also transferring files. You have to know them. We already talked about wireless devices. I don't need to repeat them. And then all these. So I'll remove them from this scope. Then the power settings. If you are using a computer, there are certain devices that will prevent you from losing your data, like the UPS or surge protectors. We connect to our computer so that in case the power goes off, you'll be able to save your work before. So that's the UPS, uninterruptible power supply, or surge protectors also. Right. Then we already discussed the basic processing. We talked about them already. We said the ROM save data, and then these other factors. Now let's move on to the factors that affect the computer processing. This is different from um, the essential component. What factors will make the computer become faster or slow? The first one is CPU speed. The faster the speed, or the faster or the bigger the size of the CPU speed, the faster the computer will become. We have the RAM size, the storage type. SSD always are faster than HDD. GPU power, presence of malwares like virus and others. And then we have the background applications running. These are the factors that can affect the computer to run either slow or faster. And then we already talked about the connecting devices, the wireless. Now, software. Already we said software is a set of programs or instructions controlling hardware and performing different tasks. Now, we have different types of software. We have the system software and application software. The system software, they manage hardware. Example is the operating system and then the driver. Then the application software, they perform a particular task, like Microsoft Word being used to type documents, Excel being used to do a task called calculations, database, Notepad++, they are all application software. And we also have driver. We say the driver is a utility software which help the operating system to communicate with the hard drive or the hardware. Example is the printer driver, the graphic card driver. They allow the operating system to communicate with the hardware. For example, when you buy, let's say, a printer and you want to connect to your computer so that you'll be able to print, you have to install that particular software called printer driver so that it will detect with your computer. So the driver or auto configuration. The auto configuration, you don't need to install the software. The software is already in operating system. So they are able to detect automatically. So we call it auto configuration. Sometimes we call it also plug and play. They are all the same. It is whereby the operating system detects new devices. And then hot swapping. Um, this is whereby devices can be connected without removing or restarting the computer. Example is if you put your USB stick, you can just remove it without restarting the computer. And that is what we call the hot swappable or hot swapping. Right. Then we have also license agreement. These are the legal permissions to use the software. And we have another one called Creative Commons license. It's a type of license which allows sharing of people's content under specific conditions. So if, let's say, I have these videos and you want to share my video, there are some conditions that you have to respect before you can share those videos. We call it Creative Commons. Um, there are other utility softwares like disk cleanup, compression, antivirus, backup, and file manager. All these are examples of utility software. If we talk about defragmenter, that is, they rearrange all the scattered files to make the computer work faster. And then the disk cleanup, when you want to delete unnecessary files to free up space. Backup is when you are making copies. And archive is long-term saving. And compression, that's reducing the file size to store for sharing and then also to make it easier to send as email. All these are part of the utility softwares or programs. Right, and then you can also have other software like for taking screenshot, like the snipping tool. So if I want to use snipping tool to take screenshot, I just click and then I grab the screen. So snipping tool is also part of um the operating system. When you go to start and then you search snipping tool, you click on it, then it will open for you. Right. So they are the softwares we use to grab a screen or print a screen. Now we go to operating system. We said the operating system, they are a type of system software that manage the computer. Now, what are some of the functions of the operating system? First of all, they provide graphical user interface. Then when we talk about graphical interface, we are referring to the buttons, these buttons that you see that I can click on it, the bars, the task bars, these things that I can easily click on. We call them graphical user interface. It's the operating system that provides that one. They also manage programs or files or hardware. They provide securities. If I say they provide security, that means login password, logins, and then usernames. So these are the functions of operating system. You must know it. They can ask you about that. Then the file management, that's compression, that like I said, reducing the size of the files. We call them compression software. So the format are for .zip and .7z. Then we move on to software installations. Yeah, software installation. That's the method or the medium whereby you can install or put a software or program on your computer. And we can install software either through USB flash drive or CD, or you can also install software online or from a network. So you have to know that also. Now, it is necessary to always update a software so that you'll be able to remove all forms of software errors called bug. So a bug is a software error, and then the update that we use to fix these bugs, we call them patch, and then a series of patches or more patches are called service pack. Then you must know this. Then again, regarding the software, there are some softwares that we install on the computer, and then the software that we can also use on the internet. So the internet one, we call them web-based or online applications, like using Microsoft Office 365 online. We call them web-based applications. Then also software for accessibility, um, like speech to text software, caption, subtitles. Those who have challenges with different physical forms challenges, so they need this type of software to assist them, magnifier and others. Now, classification of a software. We have freeware, which is a software that you can use for free, you don't pay. We also have proprietary software, the software that you must pay before you can use it, like Microsoft Office. It is not a freeware. Now, the advantages of this proprietary software is that they are reliable, they provide support. Like Microsoft Word, you can get a lot of support if you experience any challenges. Disadvantages are that they're expensive because you are buying, and then you cannot modify the source code. You can't make changes to that. Then we also have open source software, free open source software, which is a software that you can use for free, and then the source code is available for you so that you can make changes to it. And then we have the shareware, which is a trial software. Those software that you can use for a certain period of time, then after that you buy. Like you can use them for 7 days, like antivirus software, or some of them you can use after a month, then you must pay. And then we have the standalone software. It's a software that comes as one, like the Microsoft Word that you install. But then the integrated, they have so many that are put together, like Office 365. If you install, you can have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, database access, and then other software that are put together. We call them integrated software. Then metadata, additional information about a file, like the author, the file name, and then the date created. You have to know all this. The disability type and then the hardware devices that they need, I've also provided them here, which will be beneficial for you. screen reader. Somebody who has visually impaired, they need screen reader. They need a braille keyboard, magnification device, and others. Hearing impaired, they need visual alert systems and others. So you can go through this. At least you need to know one for each. Right. Now, how do you fix different problems? Like, let's say you have mouse problem, you must check the power. If the mouse is not working, you can check the power. Or maybe if you are using a battery mouse, you need to make sure that you check the batteries also. Maybe the battery is not working. You have to also update the drivers. And then for scanning issues, you must reposition the document, adjust resolution also. If you're having a disk errors, you must do defragmentation also. And if the application is not responding, you must do task manager. So these are the ways of fixing the troubleshooting some of these hardware devices. I'm not going to talk about this again because I've already explained them. The printers and then their users and the monitor HDMI, already talk about them. It is just repetition. And OCR and all these factors affecting the performance of the computer, we did that also. Right, so basically these are the things that you need to know regarding the system technologies. Now there's another one called green computing. Green computing is a term whereby when using the computer you are being sensitive to the environment. In other words, making sure that it doesn't cause harm to the environment. Some of the tips, like maybe you save paper, you don't print too much, you must use soft copies. You must also use you must be careful about the energy waste awareness. And then also, like, if you're not using a computer, you must switch it down. Don't use open a computer when you are not using. Don't print too much, and then also don't use a lot of ink. So these are ways of ensuring green computing, being sensitive to the environment. You have to know that. Then the software we already discussed, software definition and different types of software. We already did that. Then we also talk about operating systems and then the functions of operating system. We discuss them. You need to know all these. Then we move straight to software piracy. This is illegal copying or downloading or sharing of a paid software. So if you illegally copy somebody's software and then you share with others, we call it software piracy, which includes using somebody's license on too many computers. Let's say somebody purchased Microsoft Word and then you use it, then you install on so many computers. It is piracy. Or downloading a cracked or illegal software. Right. The effect of it is that loss of income for the developers, the person who created it, there's a loss of income and security risk for some of the softwares also. Right. Then we discuss also the licensing types. We talk about the single license, multi-license. When you talk about licensing, that's the legal agreement specifying how the computer may be used, installed, or shared. We have a single license whereby you can only install on one computer. And then the multi-user whereby it allows you to install on several computers. Site license allows you to install on unlimited number of computers, and most schools use site license because they need to install on so many computers. Then we have SaaS, software as a service. Software delivered through the internet. All the software that you can use through the internet, we call them software as a service. And you need to always subscribe before you can use that type of service. An example is Office 365. You can use it only online. Then EULA, End User License Agreement. which is the legal contract between the software developer and the person who purchased the software. So the one who created the software and the one who is using the software, the agreement between the two is called AULA. Already we discussed the Creative Commons license. Like we said, it allows you to share and use software under specific conditions. Then ethical use of computers. Using computers or hardware or software responsibly. That is, which includes using device safely and correctly, respecting one another, data, and then privacy, avoiding harmful behavior such as hacking, spreading malwares or virus, using network appropriately so that you don't do cyberbullying, cyber stalking, and others. These are called ethical use of network. There is also ethical use of hardware. You need to handle the equipment carefully in the lab. You don't have to steal people's computers or hardware. Use their device for other intended purposes. Then software. You shouldn't install illegal software. And then you must always keep it up to date. Then ethical use of computer management. Password. Manage your password responsibly. Follow the rules for printing. Don't print too much. You must always store the files. Don't change system settings on the computers without the educator's permission. These are the ethical use of computer management. And we have ethical use of network. You must follow the network policies. Don't use the Wi-Fi or the school network for other things. Don't attempt to bypass by using VPN. Avoid downloading harmful or inappropriate content. These are the ethical usages. Copyright, we discussed copyright again, whereby we said the legal right for the creators to control how the original work is used, copied, and distributed. That means it's the legal protection of somebody's original work. This is the in simple definition. Example is one must credit or give permission if you use somebody's work or somebody's book. So you have to give permission to avoid plagiarism. Then intellectual property. That's creation of mind that are protected by law, which includes softwares and others. So somebody's ideas or inventions that is created by law, we call it intellectual property. So if you create your software, there's a law that's protecting you so that nobody can use your software. If you create a written content, or if you create, let's say, the YouTube video, there's a law that is protecting you against people using your content or maybe stealing it. Right. And then also, we already discussed the stand-alone and then integrated software. You can read again. Freeware and shareware, you must know them, the differences. Proprietary software and then open source software also with examples. Web-based and installed, I already explained to you. But updated software and others. Then hidden files. There are some files that can be hidden from you. And then also there are files that can only be read. You cannot make changes to it. So we have read only and then hidden files. Right, I think this one brings to an end of the system technologies. The next lesson will be focusing on the network and internet technologies.